Similar to what Rob was saying about the optimism in the United States, it is still federally illegal, but we're now 30 states medical, legal, and 9 adult use states. So the progress is happening. We're optimistic as well, and it's going to roll out probably similar to how prohibition for alcohol wound up, where you had the states proceeding first and then ultimately the Fed. And that's something that Constellation Brands DNA, they're aware of how that happened before and playing the same game again. And so I think it's very smart with how they've approached Canada first, going where it's federally legal, understanding the marketplace, and then ultimately getting ready to expand. We see that $4 billion investment in Canopy. To us, that's a signal about what's coming in the United States.
Now, investors certainly seem bullish about the opportunity to get exposure to cannabis through Constellation Brands. But if you look at the other cannabis stocks today, Tilray trading down nearly 6%, Aurora Cannabis nearly 2% lower. How are you approaching the different opportunities to invest in the space right now? Where do you think is the best bet?
Sure. Yeah, so in the public markets, this kind of volatility is very normal. In fact, surprisingly low for such a big announcement, say for a company like Tilray doing $400 million convertible notes. To only trade down as much as that. I mean, we're used to seeing price swings far greater than that. And, in those stocks specifically, we've seen those kind of moves just in the not too distant past. So when we look at this industry, there's so much opportunity across the value chain and across the investment landscape where certainly there is opportunity in the public markets, but when you look at these very high valuations, it's not surprising to see these levels of capital raises happening. In the last week alone, we've saw numerous companies raising, Tilray alone, just with their 400, GW Pharma with their 300, GTI last week did a quick bought deal. So it's smart for them to do that at these high valuations, but for us, we look at the opportunities also in the private markets where things are much more sensible and also could be ultimately acquisition targets for these very large, high multiple companies.
Morgan, so many hopes seem to be riding on what happens federally in the U.S. I wonder what you think the impact of midterms will be, one way or the other,
Sure.
Which party seems to have the upper hand, and whether that might be reflected in some of the valuations of these companies, startups that are trying to place bets on pot.
Yep, so right now we're just a couple weeks away from Canada opening up their fully legal market. And I think Cramer's done a great job of kind of alerting his, the marketplace about what could happen on the backside of that. But we do have some elements here in the United States, such as midterms coming up, that could become very interesting. We have the States Act that's been in play here and gaining traction. That would be a very powerful move for the cannabis industry because it would at least create a framework for legal state protection and allows the Fed to have more time to understand how they want to roll this forward. So we're watching the States Act very closely. We're also watching the Farm Bill very closely. That does seem like it's been extended, but that is another very powerful bill protection for industrial hemp and potentially CBD. So we are watching those, and certainly, as midterms come into play, that could add a lot of bullish sentiment around both of those, and for the industry at large.
Hey, Morgan, I know you can't speak for the big beverage companies. We did talk to Pepsi CFO earlier in the week, and he was pretty mum on their plans for cannabis or CBD beverages. What do you think they're thinking? Where are they in their process of sort of gaming this industry out?
Well, Constellation set the bar, right? They came in, they got their position established, and now the rest of the market and these beverage makers, whether it's alcohol or just traditional like Coca-Colas and Pepsis, everyone's trying to figure this out now. And so Constellation has a great jump on them and did so very smartly. Early on people thought maybe they were paying too much, but hindsight is quickly showing that was smart. So they're learning with real capital and real insights by being directly involved, where these other players are having to learn. So they're in the catch-up mode. And so that's where we see them playing. And certainly CBD makes a lot of sense with the belief that the Farm Bill could pass. And so that could be a legal play for them to get involved. And the benefits of CBD are fantastic, and especially how it's derived and making sure it's quality and how it's being integrated into these delivery methods, whether it is beverage, are very important to its efficacy. But there's so much more that we're still learning about the potential for CBD and just proving how large of a market it is to see a very large conservative company like Coca-Cola or Pepsi looking at it. So whether or not they're willing to admit they're actively looking at it, it's pretty clear that they all are at this point.